Ready, Odd.
Ready?
Ready,
Yeah.
Odd.
Right, so we've got Kobie, Eyo-Hudson, and I'm going to give you like your proper thing so people get the grasp of who you are. So you don't even need to speak for a minute. Fantasy indeed. LPC, LLM students, self-employed, LL.B honours, LL.M, LPC, MSc nutrition, an online coach, fitness trailer, level 2, 3, 4 personal training. He's the CEO of Against All Odds. Dissertation, a maths and English tutor. And he's an aspiring PhD student waiting to specialise in jurisprudence, focusing more specifically on establishing a constitutional bridge between natural law theory and legal positivism, and by the way of legal idealism. And there's more to come, but that is the longest intro I've done so far. So, sorry, lad.
It's fine.
Lad, I'm just impressed by it, to be fair.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so first of all, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. A little bit tired. Hard week at work, but yeah, I'm good.
Because you weren't working 95 hours.
Something along those lines.
Yeah. So what is it like for people that don't know you? Like, what do you kind of do for work?
I'd probably best classify myself as an entrepreneur. So generally kind of how I set up my day, I start off with personal training in the morning, a bit of online coaching here and there, and then I do a bit of consultancy, community development, so sometimes going to schools and resolving some issues in schools to do with discrimination, legal governance. Then I do my charity 2 days a week, 4 till 6. So my charity is all about providing underprivileged children with education and mentoring to get onto the next step of their academic or vocational journey. And then I private tutor dissertations and then all the core GCSE subjects alongside A levels.
What got you into that though? Because obviously you're 25 and we don't know many people like that, many inspiring people, and like especially in like Liverpool city. Like, where's all that come from for you to go, that's what I want to do?
That's a good question. I'd say it probably come from me being on paper very naturally gifted, and although I find it difficult navigating through life, I've always found academia, getting to university relatively straightforward and easy. And I suppose my way of giving back is to help these vulnerable children as well. So I predominantly specialise in teaching autistic children, people with ADHD, people who are marginalised and excluded from school and are ultimately failed by mainstream education. I find that a lot of schools and institutions, they're not designed and well equipped to treat neurodivergent children. Our educational system it exists to fuel the neurotypical students, and so to counteract that, that's why I do what I do.
Does it like hit home with anything personal, or is it just because of the people that you think they need the help the most, possibly? If you don't want to dive into it, you don't have to.
Yeah, so I've always been aware that I'm different.
Okay.
I'd say if you were to ask myself and my mum what my childhood is like, there'd be mass discrepancies in what we'd say. I guess she would categorise my childhood in my childhood as being very energetic, extroverted, gregarious, social butterfly. But if you ask me what my childhood is like for me, I'd probably characterise it as being an outcast, alone, vulnerable, introverted, ridiculously shy. But I was always inquisitive and probably best described as prodigious growing up as well. I was always described as gifted, and from very young I was put on a gifted and talented programme. And with that, you inadvertently become a loner. And so I know what it's like to be different. And so my whole entire life, I've just wanted to have a reason to give back to students who I resonate with.
So from what it sounds like, because obviously you're the CEO of Against All Odds, do you reckon you was against all odds then, in a sense, from when you were growing up? Do you reckon anything like that?
Yeah. I'd say, well, not only am I black, living in Toxteth, one of the most socioeconomically deprived areas in not even Liverpool, but the UK, raised by a single-parent mother who has her own mental health issues. Pardon me. I, against the odds, got to where I got to, but that's notwithstanding her massive input. My mum worked when I was little 4 jobs to put me through education and make sure that while she didn't live the life that she wanted, she could provide that for me. And so against the odds, you know, even with my mental health journey leading up to where I am now, I am here. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing good things. And yeah, I think I wake up with every single day with a purpose to want to give back, for sure.
Yeah, because you got a picture with your mum, didn't you? Which was a nice picture with you in your suit and all that, looking all sharp. And wasn't the caption something like, "This woman is like my inspiration," or "This is the woman that inspires me to be better"?
Yeah.
Like, that was the picture that was used on an article, wasn't it? And it came in, what was it? 21 of Liverpool Black Unsung Heroes, and you was number 9 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel about that when that came around?
It felt good.
Yeah.
It felt good to get some recognition for being a black person from the city doing good things and getting that recognition for it. It inspired me to keep doing what I'm doing. Not because I care about recognition or to be in the papers or anything like that, but for people to understand that I'm not just what you see. Mm-hmm. I'm not just what you see. There's a lot more to me than what people see and what people assume. In actuality, like, as I said before, I wake up every single day with purpose. Mm-hmm. I'm wanting to constantly be the change that I want to see in the world. And as a result, 3 years in the run now, on Black History Month, I've been voted up there with the most inspirational black people in the city. Mm. So
do you think you can take that further? Because, like, obviously, you've come 3 years in the run, but do you reckon that you can provide even more for the city? Because, like, I'm not going to lie, like, the impact that you even had in my life, and, like, just even knowing you for that period of time, and ours was mainly just from the gym of being my coach.
Yeah.
Like, how much impact do you reckon that you could do if you had to be honest with yourself and, like, probably not even hold back? Because you've got the potential. Like,
yeah.
I think you've got the potential.
Yeah. Well, there's some secret projects in the pipeline for sure. There's talks about me potentially having my own school eventually. Mm-hmm. Which treats the excluded and marginalised students, the ones who failed by mainstream education, what I was referencing before. And I think if that happens, if that comes into fruition, depending on where my life goes and what trajectory I'm heading on, that could be massive. But already, based on what you said, like I already help somewhere between 100 and 120 people a week, whether that's through fitness, whether that's through education, mentoring, whether that's consulting organisations on how to help people like myself who struggled growing up in toxic L8. I'm already doing a lot of work around that, but where it could go, I think the ceiling is that high.
Because we've had conversation before, and obviously if you don't want to say about what these things are, but you've said about, like, what you want your career to be. But yeah, it's like, if you want to go into that, we can. But do you reckon that's, like, the end point of your ceiling for you, is like that's the pinnacle point of standing and then essentially helping people in a different way?
It's a good question. For simplicity, I don't know. And I'm obsessed with knowing everything.
No.
Yeah, people characterise me as a smart ass all the time. And the unknown scares me.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm in a place in my life where I know I'm doing great things. I'm comfortable financially. I wake up every single day with purpose. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know whether I want to cross over and be a barrister. I don't know whether I want to be a professor of law. I don't know whether I want to own my own school and help these children. I just know that right now I want it all. And eventually there will come a time where I need to pick just one. Or a couple. Or at least have an input in a few while focusing on what my career is.
What's stopping you from having them all, though? I know, like, obviously you need to think about it realistically and that, and we can't have everything. We do need to basically sometimes pick one path.
Yeah.
But what is actually stopping you? Because, like, you work ridiculous hours. Like, like you said, you work 95 hours this week. You take about 6 days to reply to me on WhatsApp. But, like, what? It's fine. But what is stopping you from having it all? Because you are determined enough.
The realism behind it. 95 hours a week across time, longitudinally speaking, is not sustainable. And so there has to become a time where I have to take a step back. But that doesn't mean my charity won't exist still. I've built up those pre-existing foundations already. If someone comes along and wants to take over it and make it a big thing, like, that's absolutely fine, as long as I can still have my say. As long as the vision and the mission is still there, the people that we help, there's no issue in that. But for me, in terms of having multiple businesses, there comes a time where I'll want to rest or explore the world or settle down, things like that. Like, they're always on the horizon for me. I wasn't just put on this earth to work. Do you know? So
I do get that. If you had to choose, though, like, what one do you think would fulfill either your potential or fulfill your makes you most satisfied or makes you the happiest? What one do you think? And obviously, choosing one does not mean that you don't care about the other, just to clarify, in case someone goes, he doesn't fucking love us on this one.
Well, hypothetically speaking, I think I definitely want to fulfill my academic potential first. That involves doing my PhD, specialising in what I want to specialise in, maybe become a professor one day, I don't know.
Yeah.
Alongside that, though, I definitely want to continue the charity. I think, last year I helped with 43 kids, 43 students, 39 passed, and 2 of the ones that failed, they've just resat their exams because they shouldn't have failed. There's an inquiry, an investigation being conducted into the schools and the exams and stuff. So I don't know what happened, but so 2 of them just resat, and I know they're going to pass.
Yeah.
So that's 41 out of 43 in a year, where I, alongside employees and colleagues, have helped turn those grades around from fails to passes. And so if I can do that on a larger scale, the magnitude and impact could be indescribable.
Well, that's what I was thinking about larger scales. Are you only looking to stay in the UK but against the odds, or would you look to branch out to Europe or branch out worldwide, or just to different countries?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. I want to help as many people as possible. It actually started to be a toxic thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously growing up in toxic, like, you naturally, become a product of your environment, and I speak about this a lot. You naturally become a product of your environment, and if people don't know about toxic, then it's notorious for gun, knife crime, antisocial behaviour. I was involved in a lot of that growing up as well. Got involved with the wrong crowd, and I was reluctantly on the opposite side of the law growing up. Did a few things that I'm not proud of, seen a few things that scarred me for life, and it started off as a toxic thing because I wanted to give people a better incentive. I think education is the foundations for everything. It doesn't mean academia, it doesn't mean university, but education is the foundation for everything. Whether you want a good career when you earn money, whether you want to be happy, I think having a good education, the knowledge and power and drive is the building blocks. Yeah. And so branching out beyond toxic, beyond Liverpool is unfathomable for me right now. I'm not really thinking that far ahead, but eventually, if it becomes big enough and the funding's there, everything's about finances these days.
It is.
Who knows?
So, what you were saying there, and we don't have to dive into that part because we won't touch over like your past, but the kids nowadays and all that safety, doing action, all that is antisocial behaviour, gun crime, knife crime. If you was in charge of being able to revamp their life, how would you go about it? Because a lot of kids need it. I see kids nowadays that need it, and you think, they need like a guardian, they need someone to be able to mentor them, to push them in the right path. Yeah. But they're sucked into, whether it's the community, they're sucked into gangs, they're sucked into anything that's negative, that makes them feel welcomed into a little group or a family or whatever, no matter how bad it can be.
Well, that's it. And I'd preface my answer with saying that, engaging in antisocial behaviour and crime and whatever, it's a community, it's a family. And obviously, speaking from someone who was raised by a single parent mother, I didn't really have much of a family, didn't really have a father figure. But I found that father figure within the people with whom I associated with. And I find that a lot of people probably have the same issues. How I go about it against the odds, or my job in community development and stuff, is I take hold of the students or people from my area. I highlight their strengths and I say to them, okay, if I was to give you an opportunity, what would you want? If I was to offer you work experience or whatever it is, what do you want? Most of them say football. Most of them say, you know what, I don't really want to be doing this, but it's quick money, my family is struggling, X, Y, and Z, and I do whatever I can to help them. And also alongside, the businesses and whatever, I go into schools and I consult them on their most vulnerable students, most of which are from BAME backgrounds. I sit down with them and, it's almost like ad hoc therapy. I say, why are you the way they are? What's going on at home, sort of thing. How can I actually help? And what I find is that just going into schools and public speaking about my experiences with who I was in a past life has inspired them to, change the trajectory that they're on. And so, it's weird how growing up I was on the opposite side of the law, but now I've graduated with a couple of degrees and stuff in law, and I've essentially almost made it out. So if I can do it, they can do it.
Do you find a lot more like lads coming towards you, like from school, so a lot more boys because of the male figure?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the reasons why I started my charity in the area, because a local census report was released which said that the women in the area are doing better than the males, but the males really, really need help, especially with GCSEs and A-level subjects.
Yeah.
And so as a result, that's why I set up my tuition classes in response to that, and also want to mentor them. But some of them are too far gone, but those ones on the fringe area is where like you are, you're reluctant to want change and to better yourself, but it's still possible. They're the particular demographic that I target. The ones who are too far gone, if I had all the time and resource in the world, I'd help them as well. But I actually want to help. I want to help people who want to be helped.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the probability. If you have a 1% probability that you want to be helped, I'll help you. If you're completely too far gone, you've already committed crimes and all that kind of stuff, then it becomes a lot harder. Doesn't mean that I won't take on the challenge, but it becomes a lot harder.
Is it because of like what they've done in their past and that's what's on their track record, or how they are personality, even how they act towards you? Is that what you mean by too far gone?
It's more so, it's not even so like, people engage in crime all the time. That's no issue, but it's when you adopt a particular persona because of said crimes, and you walk around with a chip on your shoulder like the world owes you something is almost irreversible. Psychology, isn't it? Like the more you do something, the more it becomes ingrained in your brain, and it becomes second nature, and therefore it's even harder to break those habits, those cycles. So I want to target the students who are vulnerable of going down that path or haven't went down that path.
Have you had many come across you like that?
A few,
yeah.
A few.
Is one of them that it kind of hits home because it's like, it's not like they failed, but it's like that's like a failed project, like kind of thing. Like that's a kid that could have got the help, but
Facts.
I just weren't able to do it. Like,
yeah, I've had a couple, only a few, and that was because of everything's capacity, isn't it? So it's the same with my fitness clients. I can't help you get into great shape if you're not going to hit me back with a 50%. It's the same with the GCSE results. I can regurgitate you algebra and all the other different topics to do with mathematics, but if you're not going to want to apply yourself and learn what I'm teaching you, I can't help you. Yeah. If you're not going to go to the work experience that I've gotten you, I can't help you. No matter what the words come out my mouth, it's a give and take relationship. And so there's only a few that have come in and failed. But equally, like, I've tried to put other systems in place for them as well. So alternative education, I've contacted schools that they can go to, parents, I try to speak to parents, and then that's an even different conversation entirely, but it starts with parents. It absolutely starts with parents.
It starts with parents?
It starts with parents.
Oh, it starts with the parents.
If their parents aren't particularly too bothered about education, their child's fucked.
Yeah, I can fully imagine that, because say that there's so many kids that you come across nowadays where they come from a household, and I will never say it's like exactly people's faults, but you've also got a responsibility to your child. Like, you brought them to the world, you've got to make sure that they're in a place where they're ready to go into the world by themselves. And if you're not asked by them, and it starts at school, even if they're not the best educational wise, get them in a good social group, get them to go down the right paths and stuff like that.
That's it.
But have you ever come across like difficult parents?
Oh yeah. I was working with Broad Green earlier on this year, and there's a student who had been excluded from school, and I was asked to go around to her house in an attempt to motivate her into doing her GCSE exams, even though she hadn't been to school for like 7 to 9 months. And got in there, and then when I knocked on the door, their mum was in bed, like just in bed, like didn't work, didn't do anything. She was just in bed. Her child was up, had been informed that I was going around to the house to visit, and she was just in bed, and she was like, "Hi, you're right," and just didn't really acknowledge my existence or understand why I was there. She said that her daughter would be fine in life, irrespective of achieving GCSE results or not. And I obviously sat her down and I said to you, "What do you want to be when you're older?" All that kind of stuff. An influencer. Shock. And I said, "Okay, but how do you intend to get there?" And her mum was there, and her mum, because she thought her daughter was pretty, she thought that she'd be fine. And I'm like, well, like you're in all due respect, like you're too far gone. Yeah. Like I don't understand how you can bring a child into this world, be with her every single day, and not nurture her potential or push her towards her potential. I just don't understand her.
Some people aren't fit to be parents, and that's the sad part of it. So say, it was it Joe? Was it you that was saying that we're now having less children, or the world's now having less kids?
Yeah, so there's a statistic that was published, and it was basically saying how it was more towards, I think it was parents who are becoming more career driven though.
Yeah.
People who like living in the city centres, they just haven't got the time or the structure around them to have a family. But I mean, like maybe the situation's a little bit different where it's like the parents haven't got the motivation to actually
Be a
push the
parent.
potential out with the children. Do you know what I mean? I think there is a bit of a difference there. Like,
Yeah, because why do you... I don't understand. We've all got it in us to be like a nurturing parent. Whether that's you're a mother or you're a father, you've always got like a sense of responsibility for these. Like, where do people go wrong with it? I don't get it.
So you think, you know, I think naturally we do. As humans, we have an inherent biological predisposition to help and nurture our own. But actually, I think trauma can affect people more than what we think. And in actuality, we become so egotistical that we forget about the people who are around us who actually depend on us the most. And that's what I find most about what I do, is that these students are not only failed by mainstream education, but they're failed by their parents as well, because they haven't been given the nurturing they need and want.
Would you say that's a common thing though that you find in a lot of these kids?
Do you know what? The common thing is actually parents wanting to help, but they don't know how to, because they haven't been as skilled, upskilled and equipped with the qualities to actually help their children. Because what I find is that if their student is lacking in academia and getting poor grades, that's because their parents dropped out of school or equally got bad grades as well. And so they are becoming literally a product of their environment, but their parents don't know how to help. And that's why they come to people like me. And so I've been the busiest I ever am, because this year is where people start to recognise me as this maths tutor, this physics tutor, this chemistry tutor who can help out their autistic, ADHD, OCD students, their daughters and sons and daughters, because my name's getting around, and because they can't physically help them. Because when they hire other tutors, the other tutors aren't equipped to understand what their students are going through as well. And you know, people call it a gift, but I just understand autistic ADHD people more than most people. I don't know why. I can think on their level. I understand why they think the way they do, and they see the world the way they do, and I can articulate and frame things in a way that they're going to understand. I can go from talking about theoretical aspects and compare it to like real life applications, and they're gonna just get it. You just get it. And there's a case this year where I had he's a 15-year-old boy, and last year in December he was diagnosed with ADHD and ASD, so autistic spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
And it was they were completely oblivious that he had it. And so the mother got in contact with me in January to have sessions with him, and instantly hit off the bat. You know, he was predicted to fail. Wasn't even predicted to fail. He was told he was going to fail. He's on a level 3. It's a 4 to pass. He ended up getting one of the best grades in his year by June.
Fuck no.
Yeah, just because I said to his mum, he's only 3 or 4 sessions a week. I understand how his brain works. Mine operates in a similar way. Let me tutor him. Trust me. And now he's doing engineering in college.
I find that autism's not spoke about enough, because like I work in an autistic school, and I knew fuck all about it. I knew nothing about autism, and I remember at the time I was seeing a therapist, and I was speaking to her about it, saying, "Oh, I've got this job interview coming." She, "Oh, that's great. So where is it?" I said, "The school." And it's an autistic school. She went, "You need to go and research about autism now, because if you don't know what you're going into and what them kids need, you do not deserve the job."
Facts.
Yeah, and I was like, "What?" And I've been there for 3 years now, but it's so obvious to see if a child's autistic. And like what you're saying, that kid's got diagnosed with ADHD and ASD, and the parents weren't really completely aware of it. But obviously they must have had some point where they knew to go and get him tested to go and see what results came back. But I just feel like it's so point blank obvious now, like being around it. Yeah,
and it's funny because like growing up, like I always said to my mum, for example, like, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me. And she'd be like, no, there's not, no, there's not, no, there's not. And she'd sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
And I definitely have something, I'm definitely neurodivergent, but I have something that what I don't know, because therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists are unable to tell me. I know I've been diagnosed and misdiagnosed, but I definitely have something, and I have something where, as I said to you, I can think on their level. But the difference is that it depends on your natural IQ. So with low IQ, you can be severely autistic and you can be dependent on other people. With high IQ, you can be functionally autistic, and the commonly referred to as Asperger's syndrome. But as we know, it's a full-on spectrum. So sometimes it is blatantly obvious. You know, I've even started personal training an autistic girl, and it's so obvious because she's so dependent, and you know the way her mannerisms and her behavioural mechanisms that you can just tell. Whereas I've met people who are also autistic, and you would not be able to tell at all because they mask it so well. And that's where it comes. You know, when people mask and they've learned to adapt to the evolutionary environment, it almost becomes impossible.
Yeah, because there's some kids in my place, obviously not to name and stuff like that for personal reasons for them, confidentiality. But there's sometimes like they'll do home visits in the school, and like we'll talk about it and stuff like that, and we'll get insight about how the home life is. And they go, yeah, when they go home, they're flapping all day. So if anyone doesn't know, like a lot of flaps can look differently for people, but a lot of kids can like do that back and forward, or they can bite, or they can like kind of like jump or like a hop. And like, you don't see that in the school because they massive so well because they're so scared, even though they're in a controlled environment of autism. All the other kids are autistic, but then as soon as they go home, they could be bouncing off the walls, they could be doing that, they could be standing in corners, like really taking themselves away, and like it's absolutely mental.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Do you get more autistic or ADHD kids coming in? And I know a lot of kids can get diagnosed with both.
Well, yeah, there's an overlap of both, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, for tutoring?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'd say ADHD, but I'd say it's about a 60-40 split, so it's pretty even. I'd say ADHD, but as I said, there's an overlap there, so there's probably a hint of ASD as well. And that's most commonly because of concentration levels. Yeah. You know, there's two different variations of ADHD, one of which is inattentiveness, one of which is hyperactivity. I mostly get the inattentiveness. And so I have to constantly upregulate myself and put myself in the best position to teach them quite well. But I also follow something called the Pomodoro technique as well, where it's 25 minutes intense work, 5 minutes rest, so that they can go off and do whatever they need to do. And then come back and do intense work. So there's all different techniques and mechanisms one can put into place for these students in order to help them. And what happens in those 5 minutes is that their brain is subconsciously thinking about what they've just been taught. And so that time frame to ruminate on what you just taught is going to help them in the long run. And actually, some of the feedback that I've been told is that they hear my voice in the exam when they're going through a question.
Really?
Which I find really good because it's repetition as well. Repetition. Most common like symptom of ADHD and autism is low working memory capacity. And so if I repeat myself constantly, and then get them to fill in the gaps along the way, that's what really helps them. Yeah.
If you had a child or you had a student that you needed a tutor and their processing time was super, super slow, it took them ages. It could take them an hour to write down one page in English.
Yeah.
What's your approach to that?
Good question. I've got a couple of them. Good question. I'd say, okay, so if it's about processing time and then handwriting speed, laptop. Automatic laptop. If it's about processing time in terms of actual cognitive function, executive function, I let the parents know it's gonna take a hell of a lot of sessions in order to get the information across in a particular way, and they're okay with it. Yeah. Repetition. So I actually allow them to read out the question, deconstruct the question, see what they can extrapolate from the question about what it's asking, you know, the key components in it. So let's take a maths question, for example, and let's say you have like a pencil, ruler, and rubber, and they all cost different amounts of money. And then it gives you like the overall price. You hand in £20 and see how much change you're going to get. Well, I'm going to ask that child, what do you understand about the question first? How many different ingredients or components to do the question? How much does it actually come up to? Do you understand how it's come up to that, given the price? Okay, then now we're going to actually answer the question in terms of, okay, if you hand them a £20 note, how much change are you actually going to get? How are you actually going to get there? It's not just give me the answer. It's not just add them all up, take them away from 20. It's not about that. It's about actually understanding the actual question asked. If you went into a shop, and I compare it to a real life scenario, if you went into a shop and you asked for a Kinder Bueno and a drink and whatever else, and then you got given the change, 9 times out of 10 they actually get the real life question right and the actual theoretical question on the paper wrong. And so comparing it to real life examples, I find that they get the answer 9 out of 10 times right.
So if I give you another scenario with that, I'm thinking about kids in the school, and now I can take your approaches to them. You have a child, super intelligent, they can do the work in 2 minutes flat, don't really have to do the input. But their mind is other places, they're bored all the time, they don't want to be there. How do you bring them back in?
Do you know what? I'll spend 5 minutes talking to them about what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
And I'll somehow link it back to the question. So the thing about intelligence is, in my opinion, and like psychologists have shown, that intelligence is the link between unmeaningful data and finding a link between them. So you can have two pieces of information which are completely unrelated, and then intelligence is finding that link between them. So how I go about that is I'll ask them, what are you actually thinking about? And then somehow I'll relay it and relate it back to the question asked.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously I can't give you a real life example because there's no question in front of me, but somehow I'll do it. Somehow. And then the brain's already stimulated because of what they're thinking about. If I relate that back to the question, I find that they tune in a lot quicker, a lot easier.
I like that. I'm gonna start taking some of your tips there.
There's no point saying to an ADHD kid, concentrate, focus, because
it's like telling a sad person just to be happy.
Exactly, they've got a dopamine deficiency in their brain. Do you know what I mean? They need that constant dopamine in order to keep active and sane. But it's ultimately approach, and with any student, it's always approach. And I was definitely failed by mainstream education, and I got by based on intelligence alone. But a lot of teachers just looked through me because I was intelligent, but didn't actually nurture my needs or wants. And in all fairness, I didn't know what I needed or wanted. I could do the work in 2 minutes flat. Was bored majority of the lessons. Yeah. It was too easy for me for the majority of my years leading up to A levels, let's say. And the teachers didn't know what to do, but except my maths teacher. My maths teacher, she always had a trick up her sleeve and always gave me extra work. Always found a problem that I couldn't do. And what I found is that intellectually stimulated me to want more and more and more and more. And that's why maths is my best subject, and that's why I predominantly teach maths.
So say for instance you became a teacher, you went to school and there's a 15-year-old Kobie there, exact same as how you was. How would you address him? Like, how would you help him? It can be in whatever subject kind of thing, but he is that 2 minutes flat, everything's dead easy. I'm bored, I can't really be arsed kind of thing, being here maybe. How would you go, Kobie? Like, come on, gotta do this.
It's a good question.
Because like there could be a parent watching this that have a child back at home and they go, do you know, I'll give that a go with him. Maybe he's not doing his own work or something like that, or we need to try and get him to do a bit more.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
If there was a 50-year-old Kobie who was quite prodigious and was doing the work with relative ease, I'd probably say, how else could I challenge you? What do you need from me is a question that I would ask. What do you need from me? And if that child said, I don't know, I would give them more work.
Yeah.
I would give them more work. But it depends, because I think when someone shows such proficiency in one subject, that means they're usually lacking in other areas. Different parts of the brain, you know, you got one hemisphere, the other hemisphere. So usually people say you're either good at English or maths. I was quite good at both. Not to brag, but I was quite good at both. And so what I found is that with my maths teacher, she picked 5 people to do their GCSEs a little bit earlier. And as a result of that, we were still sat in class with the other people who were like preparing to take their GCSEs. And what she gave us was something called level 3 algebra, which is the foundations of A level, but it was higher than GCSE.
Yeah.
And so she nurtured our intelligence and she got us ready for A levels to do that. If I was a teacher and I was doing it for myself, though, I'm a nosy bastard. I'd find out why they're so good at maths. Are they doing it at home? Okay. And I would definitely find an area of weakness and help them improve on that. Or alternatively, I'd get them to do their exams early if they were that good, and get them ready for the next steps. I think a lot of teachers have it rough. They're a class of 30. They can't look after everyone. Yeah. And you have favourites, I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
You have favourites, yeah. And fortunately, I was one of those kids who were favourited in school. So I didn't really have any issues with regards to, like, I could go to my teacher and say anything to them. Can I get extra work? Can I go home early? All that kind of stuff. Like, it would be favoured and it would be accepted. For those students who aren't favourited, they have it rough. They're not. The attention is not on them, and I think as a result, they could be failed.
Yeah.
Because the teacher has no idea that they're suffering in silence, and then you have to look at why. And I think every teacher should be skilled or should have the skills to understand neurodivergence for a start. And I think it relates back to, you know, the manifestation of behaviour. So if a student is like naughty or has their head on the desk, you need to find out the reasons why. You can't just exclude them, or you can't just say they're disrupting the lesson.
Yeah.
You need to actually be equipped to understand why they are the way they are. And so that's definitely the approach I would take if I was approached by a 15-year-old Kobie who found work relatively easy and completed it before anyone else.
That's absolutely fair enough, because being someone that works in a school, I completely understand where you're coming from. And I'm not going to lie, I'm shit with the academic part. I will never say that I am. I'll never try. I even say to the kids, I don't know why you're asking me, because I'm not any good at this.
Yeah.
But I feel like we do need more of them teachers though that can understand both sides, the academic part, but also the humane part of them. And why you're acting bad? Why do you feel like you're acting naughty or something like that? Come on, why aren't you concentrating? Why are you taking yourself out the class? Like actually having that conversation with them, but knowing where to steer them.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere that you know of that people could go for that, or is that more of a natural thing?
It's uncommon, you know. I think schools need to invest more in teaching assistants, like yourself.
Hey,
Teaching assistants like yourself, but in normal mainstream educational schools.
yeah,
You know,
do you need them?
You know, there's talks of there being new SEN school, special educational needs schools, but there's lack of funding. So I think in normal mainstream education, we need more teaching assistants who can sit at the back of the classroom and be on call to anyone that needs help.
Yeah.
Without that, I think a lot of people who are undiagnosed neurodivergent are gonna really, really, really struggle. Like myself, really, really struggled. As in, not with the content, but just being in an environment where there's a kid there, there's a kid there, there's a kid in front of me, there's a kid behind me. Like, I don't really have sensory issues, but like, I just didn't like being so confined or compact, and I'm a bit of a lone wolf, as you quite well know. And that kind of relates back to my time in university, where I didn't attend. You know, I had 9% attendance in my 3 years. And I had 4% attendance in my master's degree. I just don't get on with people.
Yeah.
I don't get on with people, and I don't like the way the lecturers or the teachers read off a PowerPoint and then don't really prompt you for more information. I did a law degree. Don't really prompt you for more information, do you know what I mean? They're just reading off a lecture. And to be fair, seminars would have been pretty good for me, but I just didn't. If I didn't like the lectures, I wasn't going to the seminars. It's that simple for me. And so there's this thing called autodidacticism, which is essentially where a person can teach themselves the content and not have a teacher. And I was that guy who just turned up for exams in law school for the whole 5 years I was there. And so I think if a child is not getting the attention that they need, even in primary school, secondary school, they could end up the same way. Or alternatively, they
University. Some people want to learn with it, but being someone that is so academically driven, someone that's done the 5 years with 9% attendance, that's done the law and all that, got the charity for tutoring. Do you not in a sense push them, but you do try and guide them on the path towards university because you think that's the best way to go?
Good question. I'd say I'd guide them to wherever fills their potential. Doesn't have to be academia. You know, I think my cousin's a primary example of someone who, I think he dropped out at A-levels and now he got an accountancy scholarship, apprenticeship, and he's well on his way to becoming a qualified accountant. Didn't go to university, but it's the equivalent of the course he's on is like the equivalent of it.
Yeah.
And so I think vocationally speaking, I think even if you are academically gifted, it's not always the route you should take. I hated university, didn't attend, didn't engage in any of the mooting or debating or any of the societies that I should have. I went in a time where, for reasons that I'll probably go into in later on in the podcast, I shouldn't have went. I wasn't in the right mental space at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't take advantage of all the opportunities in front of me. I'd say to people, take a couple of years out. People say when you take a couple of years out of education, it's really hard to go back. I think, me personally, I needed to take a couple of years out. I did take a year out, but we'll get on to that in a bit. I needed a couple of years and I'd go back as a mature student when I'm really actually,
kid over there.
When I'm maturely equipped and I have the emotional regulation to go and, you know, turn up on time and engage with the content that's being taught. I think at 16, 17, for institutions to put it on the student that they need to decide what they want to do for 3 years and therefore potentially the rest of their life at that age is cruel. I think it's cruel. I think, it's great if you've got your life planned out from the age of 14, which I actually did do, and it turns out for you and it comes into fruition. Fair play. Good for you. The majority of students, it's not like that. Yeah. The majority of people that do law don't end up in law.
Why is that? Is it because they just drop out? It's too hard and not equipped, like you were saying?
Because we're not told how competitive it is from the offset. We're not told how competitive it is from the offset. And again...
And is that in law?
It's probably law, medicine, the sciences, all those kind of subjects. But also, like, I'll take myself, for example, as well. I did my 3 years degree, and then it was either, barrister's course or solicitor's course. I didn't know that. I didn't know that till third year. And then by that time, I was like, apparently the bar is the hardest thing you can do. So I went with the easier thing, which is the LPC, which is the legal practice course to become a solicitor. So I chose the LPC, and that was hell as well. that was hell on earth. But I think we're not provided with the visibility enough of what pathways we can potentially go down. I'm not even just talking in university, prior to university. I think when you've got a clear image in your head about where you can get to and whether realistic you can actually get there, I think students end up doing a lot better. I had a mate, Lewis,
Is that me?
Not quite. He won't mind me talking about his journey, for example, but he, by the age of 15, 16, 17, had 3 career pathways that he could have went down.
Yeah.
One of which was law, one of which was psychology, one of which was being in the Marines. He tried Marines, didn't like it, or something happened. Went to university and got accepted for psychology. Wasn't for him. Then he did law, came top 5 in the year, went to Cambridge, went to one of the best universities in the UK for his barrister training, and now he's been accepted as a junior barrister again in one of the best barrister chambers in the Northwest, and he's absolutely smashing it. And he's someone who I was aspiring to be like in university because he had it all figured out. Also, it seemed he had it all figured out because he knew that he had 3 pathways to go down. He tried 2 of them, and he was left with 1. And he said to me, like, he had to put his 100% into this one, otherwise he wouldn't know what he wanted to do. That's a clear example of someone who, he's an anomaly. Most of us don't know what we want to do at 15, 16, 17. I still don't know what I want to do now. I just know that what I'm doing right now is fulfilling. Whether that lasts the rest of my life, I don't know. But I think it's awfully cruel of institutions in the educational service to impose that we decide what we want to do from such a young age. And so to answer your question and circulate back around to that, I don't think university is a must. I think some type of vocational course is a must though, a trade. Plumbing, electrician. I know I have plenty of friends who are plumbers and electricians who earn more than solicitors. So I, with my students and against the odds, I mentor them and I push them in the direction that where their strengths are. Or, I say to them, okay, you're quite weak in this area. Do you want upskilling? Well, how can I help you? Is this something that you're open to? Most of the time they say yeah, but most of the time we actually spend a lot of our time pushing them towards where their strengths are. And that's not necessarily university.
Do you reckon that we need to change it then with schools and how they approach? Because when I remember being in 6th form, they made us all go and get our laptops and sit there and start looking at universities that we wanted to go to. And that's what we had to do. Like, it wasn't a choice kind of thing. And everyone else felt feeling forced on us. And I went to uni, done 2 years, didn't even look at the course I really wanted to do. Just said to my teacher, my PE teacher, Wimrow, what course did you do? And did you do? He went, done sports development. I went, glad I'll do that. Because I want to be a PE teacher. Because I don't know what I want to do. Go there, 2 years, drop out. Okay, I don't want to be a PE teacher. What do I do now? Oh, go and work on Mackey's. Then go and work in a warehouse. And I've got 18 grand worth of debt on my head. But something that I'm never going to use.
Wow.
And like it takes you to a point where it's like, what do I need to do? And then it puts me into a place where I'm like, oh my God, I don't know where my life's going right now. And then I go into dark places. And then it takes like all that hardship to come out of it. And then be like, what do I need to do in my life? And it's like, oh, I want to do a podcast. But it's like one of them, it's like you go through so much where to find a place where you want to go and you don't really know how you really get there in terms of a path.
Yeah.
You feel like you have to go through the shit.
Yeah, facts. And in terms of reformation and the question that you asked, I can't see any other way out. I can't lie. I can't see any other way out that, universities have been a thing for centuries now.
Yeah.
And so to reform the application process would, called unuprise. it would cause an uprise. I think if more students were aware that they don't necessarily have to go to university straight away, they could take a couple of years out, go and work in a job that they don't want, in a bit of money, and then transfer into university. I think if more people were aware that you could do that, I think that's a better choice entirely. I think a lot of students get to 17, 18, they want the university lifestyle. They want that freedom from parents. They want to go and travel the UK and go to a university that's not close to where they reside, and have that fun, that freedom, and fair play. I wish I lived my fullest university experience. I wish I did, but at the same time, I am who I am because I didn't. So I understand it, and I think reforming it and changing it would cause an uprise, and I don't think it would work. But yeah, it's hard to answer. I think how it's going right now works to an extent, but I can't see any other intervention being put into place to make it work better.
Because don't schools get like, do they get like so much, or it's so much recognition by how many students that they send to university? Because it makes them look better, doesn't it?
It makes them look better. And
I understand why they push it, because at the end of the schools, it's a business. The whole education system, it's a business that they need money to fund, and they need to send kids to schools. Once the money goes into university, I get it. But it's fucking not fair to the kids.
It's not fair, man. And it's crazy because I can look back now and I can name everyone in my year group and probably guess where they are, or I know what they're doing. And there's a lot of smart kids who went under the radar who are not doing particularly well in their lives relatively to where they could be. And I just think, wow, school failed you really, really bad. One of the smartest people I ever met, can't say his name. You probably won't see this podcast anyway, but him and I used to sit at the back at maths class together, and we'd finish our work and whatever, and we used to like talk about like quantum physics and cosmology, and we were those two nerds in the back of the classroom who speak about that. It was so blatantly obvious he had ADD and ADHD, and no one ever picked up on it because he was very intelligent. Like, whereas I got a really good photographic memory. He could. And I could remember formulas and equations that I'd have to use in the exam. He would derive them from scratch. Like, he was like the Einstein of our school, my school, I'd say. And I messaged him fairly recently, and he's, he went to university, dropped out, and now he's like a carer or something.
You're all good there,
you okay, mate?
Get your cough out, lad.
You're all good. And there's nothing wrong with being a carer. I just want to disclaim that right now. There's nothing wrong, but like, this guy, he wanted to be a physicist, and I don't know anyone else who I've ever met who is more equipped to be a physicist than him. No one is naturally gifted that I've ever met than him, and he didn't amount to his potential because his school failed him over ADHD and ADD when it was so blatantly obvious.
There's a lot more mainstream schools nowadays, though. They've got like a lot of SEN departments, haven't they? Like, I know Notre Dame's got one. I don't know about other schools, but like, I knew Notre Dame's doing it. I know I've heard about other schools doing it. But why is it took so long? I don't.
Well, the question I was going to pose to you is, did you have any of that when you were in school? Because I certainly didn't.
Fuck all of that. The only thing that we had was mentors in school. That's one we could go to and have a chat with.
Certainly didn't have anything like that. I had.
And there probably was a lot of kids in our school. Well, it's not probably. There would be a lot of kids that I went to school with that you just didn't know, or you saw them and thought, they're a dickhead, them, because we had no knowledge of it.
Well, what's the probability of someone being neurodivergent or struggling with some level of disorder? The probability is quite high these days, relatively speaking, from say 10 years ago. I'm not going to get into statistics too much, but I think a lot more schools need to be equipped and have the SEN departments needed in order to help those students. And nowadays it is more of a common thing. But back in our day, I couldn't name one school apart from the school next door to my school, which is now your school.
So in my head, I was thinking before, I was like, shit, like, what school did you go to? What school did you go to? It's right next to me.
Right next to the door,
right next to me.
It's crazy.
It is absolutely mental, though, that it took so long for mainstream schools to start taking this on. Do you reckon that was because there was SEN schools that they thought, we don't really need that because we can just send them there?
That's a whole different conversation entirely, but definitely.
Episode 2. Again,
so another thing that I do with schools is I look over their application policies. And so I'm not probably going to name any schools, but there's schools in my area, Toxteth, who don't accept people from Toxteth, but they're more likely to accept people from like the Wirral, and like Knowsley and those places, for reasons we don't know, but you can take a good guess because they get good grades and they're going to make the school look better. So one of the things that I do as a job is I work with the Liverpool City Council on trying to reform the educational application policies. So why are students from Toxteth being sent to Broad Green, for example? And I can say that about Broad Green because I work at Broad Green. Do you know what I mean? I work at majority of secondary schools across Liverpool, but Broad Green is the school where no one ever picks it as their first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice, but they're all sent there. And guess what happens? They're all failed.
Yeah.
They're all failed. I know the head teacher personally as well, Miss Feidler. She's amazing. She's been recently employed the last 2 years, and she's trying to reform the school to make it better and more habitable for people with, you know, who are from different ethnicities and religions and all that kind of stuff. But she's got one hell of a task on her hands because she can't even get more than 80% attendance in year 11 where they're doing the GCSEs. So it's like, okay, if our students are being sent to schools that they don't want, are they likely to perform better? Because the answer is no. And then that gives the head teacher, the SEN teachers, support staff, the actual teachers in there an even harder task to face, because otherwise the schools are just going to keep going downhill. And then at what point to get put into administration and then actually cease to exist.
Does she have like a time limit on when she would like to reach that? Like in terms of being able to make it a fully functional school where it's thriving?
I think she probably has a self-imposed one. Yeah. An actual one, you know, by the people above, I'm not too sure. I think it's one hell of a task though.
It sounds like it.
And in actuality, it actually takes years because you have to think about it in cycles. If a new cohort starting in year 7, then it has to be every 5 years. Because how much is that cohort in year 7 really going to grow in order to make the school a better place? So it's actually the cycles every 5 years. So she'd have to be in there for like 2-3 cycles in order for it to see any actual change. So yeah, I don't envy her job at all. And people ask me all the time, why aren't I a teacher? So one of the things I did this year was I sat I was a guest speaker in a conference in Belvedere, and I spoke about my journey into kind of where I am, where I am. And I was asked by the head of sixth form in Chilwell, why aren't I a teacher? If I'm doing so many great things and I can teach and I can articulate myself very well, why aren't I a teacher? And I just said, why would I be a teacher?
Yeah.
If you look at the current economic climate, teachers are on like what, less than 30k a year? And they're teaching our future generations, and they're the ones who, they're not even equipped with the skills to detect neurodivergence. Never mind the pressure on them to get people good grades. Like I just couldn't do it. Whereas the stuff that I do is a charity. Do you know what I mean? It's a project. I'm not getting much money from it at all, if any, actually. But what I know is that I selectively pick the students that I want to help, which is the majority of them. I've never said no, actually. So I retract that. I can't say no. I'm too nice. But also, like, I impose expectations going forward as well. Is that if they're not going to attend, they're not going to listen, they're not going to, engage. Why would I continue to help them? With school, you can't do that. You're forced to help someone, or you're forced to manage a class. And whether you can or not, that's up to them. But for me, I am very selective with whom I help, and I make the parents and the students aware before starting against the odds. The expectations moving forward is that I want to turn your grades around. And I don't know if you know, but turning a fail into a pass is one hell of a job. And I put great pressure on myself, an almost insurmountable amount of pressure on myself in order to do my job properly. I was up at like 4, 5, 6 a.m. the majority of this year, printing off past papers and printing off resources, stapling it and gluing it together in order to get these students ready for their exams. I went above and beyond. It's not just against the odds, the tutoring, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours a week. It's not about that. It's the preparation that goes into it. Learning all 43 students' strengths, weaknesses, where they're at, what grades they're at, what subjects they're not good at, what subjects they are good at, and prioritizing that in order, getting their folders and books in place in order to actually help them. It's not just about, here's past paper, here's how to do the question. It's not about that. It's about understanding where their strengths and weaknesses are, understanding what their neurological background is, and being able to apply and articulate myself in such a way that they're going to understand. There's so much more that goes into than what people think.
Yeah, could you give them a complete tailored approach? Like every single kid is different, and even if it's in by the smallest margin, they're different, and they need that tailored approach. Yeah. You can't put them all under one umbrella.
Facts.
So the way that you're doing it is the right way. Like you said, 30 kids in class, one teacher.
Amazing.
They're not going to be able to do it. You get your few favourites that you'll give that tailored approach to, but most of them are just going to get the exact same. Yeah, it is your work, look at the board, need help, come get me.
Yeah, most of the students I teach, they don't thrive in neurotypical environments, which is what mainstream education is. So, you know what, if you're a teacher and you've got a class of 25, 30 neurotypical students, you'll probably be all right. You know, there'll probably be some ones who have slower processing issues and whatever else, but you know, you'll be fine. But for those kids who aren't categorised as naughty or get excluded from school, like, what's going to happen to them? Do you know what I mean? So another thing that I do is I went into a school this year and I was dealing with a case whereby a student was excluded from school. And the mum got in contact with me. I don't know how she got my email or number or whatever. And she said, oh, my student's been excluded from school 7 months ago. What do I go and do? And I went, like... I said, okay, let me help you. So I went into school. I can't name the school, but I went to the school and I just said, oh, like, what's gone on? This person's been excluded from school. Like, what's happened in order for that person to be excluded? And she was like, you know, back-chatting, behavioural issues, etc., etc. And I went, okay, but I gave her the legal spiel. So I said, okay, under this particular act, this piece of legislation, you know, our students are entitled, they have a right to education. If they are excluded 6 school days after they are excluded from school, they need to be provided with an alternative education or be placed in a pupil referral unit. Have you done that?
Yeah.
Guess what the answer was?
No.
Why?
Because they didn't have anything lined up and they didn't really want the kid to be there.
Yeah,
they pushed aside.
Because they don't even know the current legislation themselves. So I had to recite, you know, Section 28 of the UNCRC and Section 8 and 9 of the Education Act 2002 and 1998, and they were shook. They were shook. And I was that person. I just went in and they just thought I was an advocate and I was just a mediator. I was speaking on behalf of the child and the parent. But what they didn't know is that I come from a legal background. And if anything, they need to shake up their own policies, become more acquainted with them and actually fulfill them and don't risk negligence and violating those said policies. And then I had to go back to the child and said, listen, I don't know what to do for you. Luckily enough, I got in touch with another school that I work with and they accepted the child and now that child's thriving apparently. But just to go back onto the topic of schools, like, they don't know jack shit. And there's a lot of people in there who have authority, aka head teachers, who don't know their own policies. So
one question I was going to ask about further on, it's not even about the schools or anything, it's about the actual students. Do you keep in touch with students after they finished and check up on them? Because obviously, like, with working in a school and all that, and like, we sign contracts that anything outside the school we're not allowed with kids. Understandable. But was there any iffy things or like that where people were like, oh no, you shouldn't be talking to them, whatever, after? But because yours is a charity, it's under your own thing.
Yeah, so I built up a really interpersonal relationship with every single one of my students. You know, I have a lot of love for them and stuff. One person said to me, I need to be aware of safeguarding issues. You know, getting the number on WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I did. I was very much aware of safeguarding, etc. But with that being said, like, there's absolutely no concerns whatsoever. You know, if I couldn't get in contact with the parents, I'd get in contact with them. And so when I actually went to Italy, I went to Rome earlier this year.
What an experience that was.
Yeah, well, went to Rome in August and landed at the airport and whatever, and I was bombarded with 40, 50, 60, 70 messages from these students on WhatsApp about their GCSE results.
Nice.
So I actually landed on their GCSE results day. And at that moment in time did I realise that getting the numbers the right thing. I honestly shed tears. Just knowing I've touched the souls of many and helped them onto the next step of academia, which is what they wanted to do. And most of these kids, you know, they were predicted fails and now they want to go on to be lawyers and dentists and doctors. And just knowing that I had a pivotal part to play in that was amazing. And so in actuality, getting their WhatsApp numbers is actually really trivial in respect to that.
Kids need it though as well, because like, I don't know if I can say, I'll probably get sacked for this, whatever, but I'd love to be able to do that. But kids need that as well. Like, they look up to some of us. Like, they're going to look up to you and they're always going to remember, oh, Kobie done this for me. Kobie done that for me. I won't be here if it wasn't for this lad that I had tutoring me when I was a kid. His name was Kobie. And I could text him whenever I needed, something like that would help. And, like, kids need that. And I feel like too many people are too protective with safeguarding and stuff like that. And it's understandable.
Facts.
But there needs to be a line as well where you can go, no, you can't do that. If they need help, then obviously they do that, because they're going to need more help than just at home.
Facts.
They're going to need outside help.
Yeah, what I was actually doing for them the days before their exams was I was giving them past papers to do so they can prepare themselves. And whatever question they wouldn't know how to do, I was doing the question in front of it and I was videoing it with this hand and I was sending it into the group chat at like 11 p.m. as well. So in actuality, some of them said, the questions that come up were identical to the exams that I was going through with them the day before at 11 p.m. And so if I didn't do that, maybe they wouldn't have got the marks they needed to go into A-levels. So as long as I'm being respectful and I'm being professional and whatever else, and I'm abiding by my, morals and values, I don't personally see an issue with it. And especially, I obviously got their parents' consent as well. So yeah, a couple of them messaged me about personal things to do with like relationships at the time, and I'd be like, I'm not going to comment on that because I'm 24, 25 and you're 15, 16. So there's some things I didn't comment on or wouldn't speak to them about, but in actuality, just having my number there gave them a lot of reassurance and confidence that they can message me whenever. And I wasn't just a tutor, I was a mentor.
Yeah.
And for some of them, I was a male figure that they wanted to look up to. And so, if there ever is a time where acquiring a student's number is inappropriate, then I'll deal with that when it comes, but there's not been any issue so far.
How does that make you feel, like being a mentor, being a role model, being a male figure in someone's life? Like, if that was me, so we switch it over, and I feel like I am that to some of the kids in the school. I feel like I'd like to say that anyway. If I'm not, then I'll have words with them and tell them that I am. They'll have to just accept it. But like, say for instance, you're going through it, and you're feeling quite down and stuff like that, and like you might get to a low point. Do you reckon it's times like that that's going to bring you back up?
Yeah.
By the time you reflect back on them, you think to yourself, do you know what?
Absolutely.
I've got it good. Whatever's going on in my head right now, I've got all this. I've got like this big stack of accomplishments that's saying the person that I am. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons why I do what I do as well, because I had a mentor growing up. Up until a certain age, and then drifted apart for whatever reason. And he was my football coach.
Yeah.
His name's Ricky Jones. Unbelievable man, unbelievably gifted and talented and smart and whatever else. Got loads of good words to say about him, a lot of time for him as well. He's not only my football coach, but he's the one who was sitting me down with his son and someone else in order to get ourselves ahead of our generation in terms of maths. And he was there, he was perfectly well aware that a couple of us lacked father figures in our lives, and he didn't usurp that position. He didn't necessarily want to be that person, but he just naturally became it. He made me into the footballer that I was, absolutely, but he also made me into the mathematician that I am as well. He dedicated a lot of his free time to sit down with us and teach us what we need to be taught in order to, to get those A-stars, those top grades needed. And just having him there gave me a lot of, again, reassurance and confidence that I had someone there who was actually looking out for me. I was raised by women, by my sister, by my mum, my grandmother. My granddad was there as well, but he's 4 generations above me in terms of age. And so growing up, he was in the picture, but we don't get on as well as we do now. And so I was raised by women and therefore lacked a masculine figure in my life. And Ricky definitely became that person for me. And so if I can be that person for other people, I look at where I've gone and I am now. And if I can replicate that in someone else, then...
Where do you reckon you will be if it weren't for a Ricky in this world? Because we all need a male figure in our life.
My honest answer, dead.
Do you reckon?
Dead or in jail.
Even though the amount of support and that you got from your mum, it just weren't enough. You needed...
dead or in jail, lad.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like my mum, oh my God. My mum's too kind for this world. She's too kind for this world. I'm getting emotional now. She's too kind for this world, but she did what she could for me growing up. Do you know what I mean? She did what she could, and she nurtured me to the best of her ability. I wouldn't necessarily say it wasn't enough, but it wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what I needed. Do you know what I mean? And I can give an example of that is when I got picked on for a large time of my childhood. Yeah. Because the way I looked and whatnot, and my mum would be like, you can, don't listen to them, sticks and stones will break up, but names will never hurt you, all that kind of stuff. And it was only for my granddad saying, listen, nah, go around the corner, give them a punch so hard that they won't do it again. That's what happened. And at the time, I was actually, I became a junior black belt in kickboxing in K1 and got my adult black belt in Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's martial arts. And I was like, I can fight here. I can defend myself. Why aren't I using it? And it's because I was raised by women who didn't advocate violence as the answer. But it was only for my granddad actually sitting me down and saying, "Says I'm sick of hearing you getting bullied or picked on or whatever. You need to go and do this about it." Did I actually go and do that about it? I know I don't condone violence. Let me just get that straight. But that's what stopped me getting picked on.
Yeah.
And if someone never said that to me, I would be a lot more. I'm very introverted by nature anyway, but I'd be a lot more introverted. I probably wouldn't be here. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't think I would have the balls, the courage, tenacity that I have now without doing those things I was uncomfortable doing. Because I grew up never hitting a fly. But as I said, I got involved with the wrong crowd, and violence is all they knew. The fighting with rival gangs and all that kind of stuff. We'd every weekend we go to Dingle, which is in Toxteth, but it's predominantly the white side of it. And we'd play football and we'd play white versus blacks. And I speak about this in schools because I used to find it so funny. I used to find like white versus blacks is just funny, innit? In actuality, looking back now, it's actually very not funny. And it would always end up in fights, and sometimes knives are involved and all that kind of stuff, and people would be getting chased and that kind of stuff. And I look back and I think, wow, like if I was on smoke and I was violent, like I probably wouldn't be here no more. But because I wouldn't touch a fly and I'd only ever hurt someone if they approached me in what's it called, self-defense.
Conversational way.
In self-defense. Nothing really happened to me. But things happened to my friends. And so if being a mentor to other people, I would definitely advocate them defending themselves. I wouldn't advocate anyone hitting anyone first. But I think people growing up definitely need a male and feminine figure to balance out. You know, you got the logic and the emotions, you got the violence and solutions, yin yang, all that kind of stuff. I lacked that growing up, and I think as a result, I counterintuitively went from being very angry and violent, but then also had the emotional and sensitivity side from my mum. And so I was very conflicted growing up until probably a couple of years ago about what kind of person I wanted to be. And I was in a state of cognitive dissonance my whole life with regards to, do I treat people the way I want to be treated, or do I treat people the way they treat me? And only in the last couple of years have I figured out my own philosophical ideologies, I suppose. But if I was a mentor, well, which I am, I would advise just self-defense only. Don't. If you're getting picked on, I'd say refer to a higher authority in the school. I would. I know people might say grass, but in actuality, racism or discrimination of any kind is learned behaviour. No one's born racist or discriminatory. No one is born wanting to hit or hurt another human being, and so that's learned behaviour. And the only way that's going to be sorted out if you seek higher authority and punitive punishment.
That's pretty fair enough, man. So I reckon we touched up loads on obviously everything that you've done to help people, but I don't feel like we spoke about you enough and stuff like that. So, because I'm not gonna lie, lad, like for the time I've known you, I never thought you'd ever say an answer where I'd be dead or I'd be in jail kind of thing. But like, why? Like, I know like we touched up like about the football and whites versus blacks, and knives could be involved, and some people would be getting chased, and you could have been one of them. But like what you mentioning before about Ricky, like, what did he do that was like so influential in your life? And it can't be he made me the football and he made me the mathematician. Like, I know that you said that your granddad, he told you, listen, Kobie, I'm sick and tired of it, and you getting bullied, go around and fucking jab them. But someone like Ricky, he sounds like he's had a much more influential part of your life. That's made you the man today. You're not in a grave, you're not in jail. You've everything that I spoke about when we first started this podcast, that's all yours, but in a sense it's also started from Ricky helping you.
So to provide some preliminary context, it actually all started when I was scouted for Liverpool when I was younger. So I was scouted with Curtis Jones, my claim to fame. We were both in primary school together, and he was like 3 years below me, but he by far one of the best people I've ever played with in my life. And so it started off by, the Liverpool scouts come around to every schools, picking us both up, taking us down to exactly where the old academy used to be. Might still be there, I don't know. And long story short, I got dropped for some reason. I don't know. And from there, I'd say that was my first inclination as to how cruel the world can be. I was told I was going to make it from very young. And like these people were adamant. Like, I went from being like an average footballer to the best in my year, I'd say, by far. And with Curtis, me and him used to tear shit up, basically. Against every other school, against every other academy, we used to tear shit up. He was centre mid, I was attack. I don't even know if he'll remember this now. I don't even know if he remembers me, do you know what I mean? I seen him a couple of years ago when he let on to me, but I was like, do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, do you know what I mean? But yeah, we used to tear shit up, and then one day I was, my head teacher didn't, like the communication went through our head teacher, basically, and they'd say, okay, Liverpool are picking you up today, sort of thing, and there'll be a taxi for you to take you to Fazackley. And one day he was just like, oh, like, just Curtis. And then that day went on to the next day, the next week, the next month, and then it got to the end of my primary school. Did I actually get my mum to go up to him and say, to head teacher, and say, what happened with Kobie in Liverpool? And the teacher said, like, just didn't want him anymore. And so, as a result, I developed generalized anxiety disorder and performance anxiety, because I was just like, how, and this is age 11. That's really uncommon. But I was in that much in my own head, I became hyper-fixated of why I wasn't good enough. And I felt rejected and abandoned and whatnot. And I think speaking about academies and being released and whatever else is not spoken about enough. It's not spoken about enough. But Ricky, for example, so that was my first football team that I ever joined, Kingsley United. And he had a very controversial approach. He treats us like robots. Fitness, we do suicide until we couldn't breathe, until we die. We would, left foot, right foot, inside, outside touch, shooting, free kicks, penalties. Every single one of us, including the goalkeeper, would have the same level of ability by the end of the session. Yeah. Because of how regimental he was. And a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of parents complained about it, but I fucking loved it. I strived off it because he not only made me a better football player, but a better person. Because that almost perfectionist approach is something that I've definitely allowed to travel with me up until adulthood. And arguably perfectionism isn't always a good thing. But having that regiment and structure, I just wouldn't be who I am now without that. He was the only person, I'd say. My mum was good growing up. She'd make sure I was doing my homework and stuff. But like when I got to a certain age and she realised I was intelligent enough to do it, she'd kind of leave me to my own devices. Ricky, nah. We do what he says. And if we didn't, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. And so I think for a very young age, I had that structure, and it was similar to the one I got in martial arts as well. Before martial arts, we had to do 20 minutes of meditation. We had to do 100 sit-ups, 100 press-ups, all that kind of stuff. And it gave me the discipline needed. It gave me people to look up to instead of just being left to my own devices, which is what my mum would do, my sister would do, etc. And so just having that regiment and structure behind me, I think it made me better in every single way. Confidence. I became the footballer who I wanted to be. Well, to an extent. Yeah. To an extent. But it made me, think Liverpool who. Do you know what I mean? And funnily enough, the Kingsley United team were full of other people who would drop by Liverpool, and we formed this team, Best and Talkative. We did really good things together, and I end up, I think I've got 4 national cups because of it. We travelled the country. I'm pretty sure we even got invited to represent GB once, but we just couldn't afford it as a local charity community. That you're good outside of that as well, which I was. And so Ricky, when it went from a footballing relationship to an actual academic relationship, he was the same with maths as well. We do all the questions like he said, and he'd have those expectations on us to complete the questions to the highest degree possible. It wasn't just about, can you recite to me the quadratic formula? It was about, can you derive the quadratic formula, which is A-level university stuff. Do you know what I mean? Deriving from scratch. It wasn't about, can you do the simplest things? Do you know how to do it sideways, backwards, frontwards, whatever else? And having that in place, again, one can deem it controversial. I needed it because I've got a very inquisitive mind where I'd say, but why is that the way it is? He would do it, and I'd learn from it. And again, as I said, it's followed me throughout adulthood, and it's allowed me to play devil's advocate with not only myself but with other people, and get down to the intricate things like, why are you the way you are? Why is that the way it is? And so yeah, he was more to me than a football manager or a mentor. He was someone that I just looked up to in every single department. And his story, I think, I don't think he'd mind me telling you this either, but I don't think he'll ever see this, is that I'm pretty sure he was in one of the best universities in the world growing up. I'm pretty sure he had like a son at the time, and so had to drop out, wants to do his PhD in physics or chemistry or something, and he couldn't because he had a son. And so what I loved about him is that, and again, very controversial, is that he almost projected his own expectations of himself onto his son, who, again, amazing footballer, went to Blue Coat, got A's and A stars at GCSE and A level, and now is a massive, like, I think he's a financial consultant or accountant or something, and he's doing really well for himself. And people would argue that Ricky was too hard on people, but in actuality, like, every soul that he's touched has turned to gold, and myself included.
It sounds like Ricky was the person that saw the best in people and was able to get it out of them, but he had to squeeze it out of you because he knew that you've got the potential to do it, but are you willing to be able to do that?
Exactly that. I haven't even thought about him that much, to be honest. I thought about how altruistic and charitable he was and how he freed up his time to help people, but in actuality, I haven't thought about how regimental and strict and structured he was as an individual, but it's something that I've definitely emulated now. I'm very much like that, you know. I'm a perfectionist by nature, and I'm a little bit like him, but yeah, every person I'd speak to now who was in the Kings United team when we were 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, they're all like, you know what, we hated him at the time, but what he did for us, wow. You
respect him now? Like, you understand where he's coming from?
Facts.
You need them people to beat stuff on you because, like you said, you love your ma, you loved her so much, but she could not get that out of you, and you need them people. You need the Rickies of the world to be able to come over and scream. You need the granddads of the world to go and fucking hit them.
Yeah, tough love, like brutality, not sugarcoating anything. Like, if you want something, go and do it then. Like, what's stopping you? And that's definitely a mentality that I adopt now.
Do you reckon in the world that we're currently in now, like, so the Rickies would survive?
Eat
with the people
rustle up a couple of feathers, I can't lie. We live in a snowflake generation where everything needs to be sugar-coated and no one can take responsibility and accountability for who they are, what they do, their actions, and essentially truth. So one of the things that I really struggle with now is knowing what approach to take with people, whether they want a tough love approach, which is what I am by nature, or whether they need me to sugarcoat things and ultimately lie.
Yeah.
I choose the former. I choose the tough love approach, and if you're not ready to hear it, that's not necessarily a me issue, it's a you issue. But I also can understand that people have triggers. So one of the things that I've come to understand in the last couple of years is that people have triggers, and that I can definitely trigger people. I regard myself as quite interpersonally intelligent, and I can read people quite well. And so, if I can think of an example, a very intrusive example, if someone's constantly posting on their social media, I can attribute that down to wanting validation of other people. Yeah. Some people aren't ready to hear that. And so one of the things that I need to work on and have been working on is not telling people what they need to hear. It's just not saying anything at all. Okay, I don't say anything at all. And that's one thing I'm really trying to work on, is that I want to help everyone. I'm a natural problem solver by nature. But what I'm very much aware of is that people just sometimes aren't ready to hear the truth. And the truth is the truth. The truth is objective fact. It's reality, yeah? But they're going to learn when they learn.
Because one thing I've adapted from you from our time together of the coaching, and I still use it to this day, and I'm always going to use it, was that I could not keep my mouth shut. I had to tell people the way it is, because when I went through my times of needing to be real with myself to be able to make myself better, I had to be hard, I had to be real, and it worked for me. So I thought, everyone needs that. Everyone has to take that approach, because it worked for me, it's going to work for you, but it doesn't work with everyone. So if I'm ever there with my girlfriend, and she might say something, or to friends, or whatever it is, okay, do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And I'm working with that, and I find that it's been a good approach.
Yeah.
For that.
I even go a step further than that, and I say, if someone's coming to me moaning about something or wanting advice, okay, first thing is, do you want me to solve it, or do you want me to listen?
Yeah.
And I got that from, I think it was Jay Shetty, the ex-Monk guy, really inspirational guy. I think I got that from him, because I think when it comes to males, we use our prefrontal cortex a lot more, which is the area of the brain responsible for logic, decision making, all that kind of stuff. And women tend to use their limbic system a lot more, which is the emotional side of the brain, pretty basic psychology. And so in actuality, when having conversations with women, I need to use or approach things in a certain way that they're going to understand, rather than telling them what they need to hear, what I think they need to hear. And I've experienced that a lot with my fitness clients as well, because predominantly as a personal trainer, I have a lot of women on my team. And so I still am brutal, because at the end of the day, I'm getting paid to do a job.
Yeah.
If you're paying me to do a job, then you're moans me about not getting results, but then you're not actually putting the work in to get those results, you're paying me for no reason. And money's great. I don't do it for money. I do it to produce good transformations, to increase someone's mindset, confidence, build healthy relationships with food, all that kind of stuff. If you want to meet me halfway, not what I can do for you. Yeah. So I'm still brutal to an extent, but you know what? In actuality, I've just started validating people's experiences a lot more. If you can't come to the gym one day because you're, PMSing or you're just having a really emotional day, so be it. Take the day off. That's fine. What I do say is just know that along the line, like the journey will be greater.
Yeah.
And potentially I couldn't get you the results in the time frame that you asked. And that's how I frame it these days. Instead of saying no what and then getting into the mood about it, no, it's fine then. When it's actually not fine. But yeah, I think that's something that I definitely need to be aware of, is just validating people's experiences more and not being so quick-minded to judge and assume that everyone's like me.
Yeah. What was our journey like? We've never actually spoke about it, and I don't care if you had to go brutally honest from time to time with me, because I know there were times I could have been better. I know.
Yeah.
But what was our journey like?
I'd say for the large majority of it went really well.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you joined me in December
last year, yeah.
And we got in mad shape by April, May. It was crazy shape, and that you were lean. You were lean, and you had the pre-existing foundations anyway to get to where you wanted to. I think it was quite a smooth experience. I think up until that point, you had maybe a couple of like off-plan meals with your girlfriend, like Chinese and stuff. It was always Chinese, you know.
Yeah, that Chinese a 2-minute drive around the corner. It's my favourite one. So,
but in actuality, I think I remind you that the cut would just take a little bit longer in that sense. Whereas some coaches, like, they have it all planned out, what you're doing every single week, a roadmap of how you're going to get to where you want to get to. With me, I don't really follow that approach. I say to you, what time frame do you want this? Okay, I can try and get you there. But I understand that people need balance sometimes, and if you want a chippy with your girlfriend, have a chippy with your girlfriend. The journey will just take a little bit longer. Yeah,
because we used to say, didn't you, if you're having a chippy, expect us to push it back a week. Something like that.
Something like that. It'll take 3-4 days to get the water out your system again. But ultimately, it's not going to make you fat. It's not going to going to allow you to develop an eating disorder. Nothing of the kind. Do you know what I mean? When it got a bit
when the bulking started,
it got a bit sticky when the reverse dieting and bulking started.
I got excited by food,
Yeah, I did. And so when I put you on maybe like a reverse diet of like 150 calories, 200 calories more, sometimes that was overreached and whatever. But overall, I think you're one of my best clients, man. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting in front of me now.
You fucking are. You're just saying it because you want to come back, man.
Definitely not. And you know it yourself where you could have improved. You could have been a lot more. If you applied the same level of tightness and structure to your cut as you bulked as you did your cut, like you would have been in a better position. But equally, like, I know how busy you are. I know what you've got going on. You're creating your studio, you're creating the podcast, you're working school 5 days a week still. You had a lot on, and therefore I said to you, I'll give you a break. And you did say to me at the end, like, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off because I need it. And so, the perfectionist in me would have been like, shut the fuck up and get to work. But in actuality, the human in me was like, you know what? I know you're working hard. I know that you're going to be a great coach one day. You've been a great client already. When you're ready for a little bit more advice or when you're ready to get back to the gym, I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah, because in a sense, I'm happy that I went off track, and like, as mad as that sounds, because I could have been an absolute fucking monster. I could have been...
Facts.
Could have been bigger than you, messing. Shoulders, lad.
Oh yeah, that's tense.
But I'm happy that it did, because when it comes to me and having my clients, if I went through it and I was almost perfect with the odd couple of blips here and there and learning curves, but I would never be able to rate the clients that go off scale or whatever. So if I've got clients at the minute and they're doing great on the cut, so like for me, I cut for 2 years in a sense.
Yeah.
I had a long break in between, obviously, because of my knee, and I put it back on, cut until December, and then done a proper one with you.
Yeah.
But I'm happy you did, because I realised the actual impact that it has when you start getting more food and what you go through. I'm happy that I've done that experience, so when it comes to someone, I go, I know what you're going through, and if it's the path that we're going to, we will have to push it back a little bit right now, because it's not going to be an overnight fix, and your habits are not going to be able to come out of it, because I've been there, mate.
No, that's
and
it.
Something like that.
That's it.
So I'm happy that I fucked up, but I'm happy that it was such a big learning experience.
No, that's it. And I think that's the most important thing, is that it's a big learning experience. Like, you've learned a lot. And obviously you work alongside me now to coach, to be a coach. And obviously you've got your own clients now. And I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. But I definitely experienced that as well. You know, my fitness journey is a mad one, and I'm sure we'll touch on that.
Yeah, we'll touch up on it in a minute.
Why I started and whatever. But for the first 3 years, I tracked every single day.
Yeah.
Tracked every single day. Every single day. No questions asked. No deviating off plan. Salmon 3 times a day. Protein shakes, oats, potatoes, rice, pasta, whatever, 3 times a day. No days off, and I got the best results I've ever seen. But as a result, I had no life. I had no life. And in actuality, a lot of my relationships declined. Friends, family, potential girlfriends that declined as a result of me on this journey to becoming, you know, the biggest guy in the room, best looking guy in the room. And what I can say is it's not worth it. The people that I've lost, or the relationships that I could have had as a result, not having those people in my life, or, you know, seeing the outcomes and, you know, getting injured and losing it all, like, it's just not worth it. Life is too short. Life is definitely too short. And that's why I do often give my clients a break. And I'm a lot more empathetic these days than I was back then. But I'm sure we'll touch on that in a minute.
Yeah, go on. So, I reckon we just jump into it.
Straight into it, yeah.
Come on. So, why did you start your fitness journey?
Well,
don't tell me you're a fat kid, because we all know that. Right?
No, but you're gonna need a lot of context before I get to my fitness journey. It started my mental health journey, actually. Well, it doesn't start, it includes my mental health journey. And so, as I said to you before, like, I was very academically gifted. You know, I got all A's and A stars at GCSE. And then 6th forms where it all started going downhill. In a nutshell, I'd experienced adverse mental health from the ages of 8, 9, 10, really bad until 16. I never had anyone to say, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And so when I was 16, I was just kind of going through the motions. Like, I had my girlfriend at the time join my school. I had loads of friends. I was very popular. You know, life was decent. So everyone thought. But in actuality, I was just fighting my demons every single day.
Yeah.
I had a lot of stuff going on. And after the first year, I decided to drop out of school. And that was due to going through a significantly life-changing event, which, I don't know, pulled down the curtain of reality and illuminated how amoral and cruel the world can actually be. I lost my girlfriend of must be like 5 years or something. Lost all my friends, every single one. Lost family members. I developed insomnia, which I'll speak about more. But for those that don't know about insomnia, people treat it with insouciance and flippancy. People are just like, "Oh, you don't sleep, it's fine, it's fine." In actuality, sleep is the gravitational center point of who we are. Our hormones, our energy levels, how we operate on a daily basis. And developing insomnia alongside losing everyone and developing even worse mental health is what caused this life-changing event. And as a result, I dropped out because I thought, I can't continue here. And, you know, I gave up all my ambitions to go to university. You know, I was on my way to one of the best universities in the world and had no hope for academic prospects. You know, I seen a huge decline myself in academic progress. You know, as I said, I went from getting top grades to, I did all right, but not by my standards. And took a year out. I went to Calais for a little bit, France, on a refugee thing, helped the refugees there, got a job, and then was met with this idea of, shit, like, I've got nothing going for me anymore. And found solace in psychology, philosophy, stoicism, existentialism, all these philosophical concepts which have got me to where I've gotten to today. So in, you know, the 7 to 9 months out, I was just really getting to know myself. I was going through my own personal development journey, and I started the gym. I started the gym because I needed an outlet greater than martial arts, greater than football, greater than athletics, greater than anything else, which allowed me to progress every single day, purely for that dopamine rush, purely for that endorphin rush. I needed something. Otherwise, it was a case of life or death. It was a case of whether to cling on to this 1 to 5% probability of wanting to be alive, or ceasing to exist. I was very, you wouldn't think, you don't know, do you? So I come from an eating disorder background. My mum's got an eating disorder, and she's had one most of her entire life. I didn't adopt mine from her, but I adopted mine based on kind of my life experiences. I just didn't want to eat as a result. And I became very thin, very, very thin, borderline anorexic. And the gym is what really helped me out in that moment, that period of need. I needed something, as I said, where I could progress every single day, where I had structure, where I had, you know, a need to eat. You know, if I was working myself to the brim, I needed food to fuel my body. And so the gym really gave me that outlet. And this is cliche, you know, a lot of people use the gym as therapy, as an outlet, but for me, gym saved my life. Without gym, 100% probability I would not be here right now in front of you, 100%. And that's why I view it so seriously, or I used to nevertheless. It's because the gym was the only thing where I could go in every single day and I had a purpose. Yeah. I had a purpose. And so for 7 to 9 months I was doing that, and then I went back into school, not officially but unofficially. Like I was just going back in to see the teachers and talk about my next steps and whatever else. And this time I can't even recognize myself. I just was so unbothered, so unbothered. And it took a teacher to say to me, "Are you okay?" For me to be like, "Shit, I'm not okay. Not okay." Yeah. And I remember bursting out crying, and she basically just referred me to the head teacher at the time, or he's the head of sixth form at the time. And again, like Ricky, this man became one of the primary reasons of why I do what I do. And deep. He, when everyone else abandoned me, he was there for me. He was there for me. He you know, accepted me back into school. He said to me, you can come in once a week if that's what you need to do. Come in once every week, come in once every 2 weeks. As long as you come in, I see your face at least once a month. As long as you attend your lesson and, you know, you want to get better, like, you can do whatever you want. And that's really unofficial, because school's not meant to allow someone to do like that, because I don't know if you know, but schools, obviously they're paid by the government per child. And to allow me to do, well, not redo, but to continue a year extra of A-levels is going to cost them money at the end of the day. Obviously, they have a right to provide me with an education, but not as long as they did. And, you know, he was just really there for me. His name was Mr. Flowers. He was really there for me. He, you know, would message my mum to make sure I was okay. He would, you know, or like arrange for taxis to come pick me up and take me from school to home and whatnot. And you know, at the time, I didn't really acknowledge how much he did for me. I didn't acknowledge it at all. And so my school attendance was abominable. It was atrocious. You know, I was going in once every 2 weeks, and I was accepted to a girls' school for English as well, to do an extra A-level. And I'd go in there once every 2 weeks as well. I knew what I was like. I knew I could get by just by going in once every 2 weeks, understanding what was being taught and understanding what I needed to memorise in order to regurgitate in the exam and do all right and pass. But as I said, the prospects of going to the top university that I had in mind were dim, and I'd wanted to go to this university since I was 8. Since I was 8, 9, 10. That's what I was working towards my whole life, as I wanted to be an astrophysicist. I wanted to do physics and maths. I even sat the PAT exam, the physics aptitude test, in order to get into that university and passed. No one actually knows that about me as well, that I actually sat the test to get in. Everyone knows that I wanted to go there, but they don't know that I, was well on my way to getting accepted. Everyone just viewed me as a smart kid that would be fine. Did well in the GCSEs and he'd be fine at A-levels. But in actuality, like, what I went through during that period of time, I would not put on anyone. And having the insomnia as well, where I wouldn't sleep. I'd go 7 days without sleeping, and I had to go A&E and get a sedative put in me to get me to sleep, because I was hyperfixated on the past, present, and the future simultaneously. I was ruminating over hypothetical scenarios that have never happened and probably will never have happened. And as I said, I lost everyone, so it was a really tough time for me. But this guy, Mr. Flowers, was there for me. He was the only one who was there for me. He understood what I was going through, and he was a little bit hard on me in the sense of like, okay, if you're not going to go to university, what are you going to do? And he gave me some great advice, and he's the reason why I'm in university. I declined all my offers for UCAS to go into university, but weirdly enough, I ended up doing all right. I only sat, let's say there was 12 exams, I sat like 9 of them, and I walked out the rest. But I did enough to pass. I don't know how. I was walking out of exams left, right, and centre. I just couldn't be arsed. I just thought to myself, you know what, like, life's not for me. Academia is not for me, and I lost who I was as a result of everything that I was going through at the time, everyone that I'd lost, all the abandonment and rejection issues and whatnot. Just being this alone in the world. Yeah, I had no prospects whatsoever. And then weirdly enough, I ended up doing all right, and he rang me up and said, like, Kobie, you've done all right here, like, do you want to come to school and speak about your next steps? And I was like, you know what, like, I was in Magaluf at the time. Shock. Magaluf, I was masking being okay with my friends.
Yeah.
No, my friends just got into university. They already found out to go into university, so we went afterwards. And I was just there like, I don't know what I'm going to do the rest of my life here. And I viewed it that deeply because university was always destined for me. I was always destined to do decent things in my life, and university was the only option for me. And I found out that they were all going, and I had no prospects myself. Anyway, returned to England, returned to school briefly, decided on my next steps, and then that's when I really had to reflect on who I'd become as a person. And as I said, I found solace in philosophy, psychology, even elements of law as well. And so people think that I was destined to be a lawyer because of, I'm well-spoken or I can articulate words and whatever, but it was never that. It was always maths, science. And so I switched to law because I became very philosophical by nature, and I believed that in this moment in time I was given a second chance. I believed that I was given a second chance, and I did a Instagram post the other month about how something that a teacher once said to me, and she said that there are people out there with half my talent and half my gifts who are doing great things in the world. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do something with my life, I'm going to go and be a lawyer, so I can help people, and I can advocate on their behalf to get them what they want. And I really had this strong sense of justice, even though I didn't want to be alive, and I was very nihilistic. I believed that nihilism is the philosophical concept that you believe that life is meaningless and that everything you do in this lifetime ultimately amounts to nothing. And there's some degree of logic in there because, when you die, 3 generations past you, no one's going to remember you. Yeah. So there's some degree of logic, but there's also a logical fallacy in there in the sense that, what you do in this lifetime actually does matter because you can impact so many people. And in actuality, that can be a domino effect and ripple across time, ripple across the generations, and that's what I thought. Also, not only was I going through a really bad time, but what exacerbated it and made it worse is that a childhood friend of mine had been shot and killed in the head. Yusuf Sonko, grew up with them. We used to play football together, climb trees, all the stuff that you'd do at that age. Yeah. Found out that he got shot and killed in the head, 1 bullet gone. He left behind family, brothers, a community that loved and cared about him, and I couldn't get over that. And that's what elevated my passion to go into law, to find out or to prosecute criminals, because we don't even know who killed them, or we don't know who killed them, but they haven't been caught. And so, as I said, the reason why I switched to law last minute was because I thought, I can make a real difference here, and I wanted to have a purpose ultimately. As I said, I wasn't ready to go to university or anything like that, but I'm glad that I did, because I wouldn't be who I am without the conglomeration of experiences leading up to this point. But definitely went through the worst entire time of my life between the ages of 16 and 21. And to be honest with you, I can't really remember much apart from going to the gym, skipping university to go gym, eating 5 times, 6 times a day. And it took me a really long time to become socially active again. I went from having a very large friendship group, and my friends probably watch this and think he was fine. Wasn't, but they would never know because I was masking it so well. and I really enjoyed adverse mental health up until about 21, 22. And one thing I didn't mention before is that when I was 10, one of my best friends at the time committed suicide, which really had an impact on me and was one of the first glimpses of the unknown. I didn't know what suicide was. I just got told one day that I'd never see my mate Josh again.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why. I was too young to understand. And only when I reflect back on why he did what he did, am I like, I can see why people commit suicide and why people are subject to suicidality, because sometimes the world is not for them, so they think. And so I made a conscious effort when I was going to the gym and getting into university to not waste the gifts that I've got. And that's where Be the Change You Want to See in the World comes from. It stems from this gift that I think I've been given to impact and change the lives of others no matter what I do, but also simultaneously, in the same breath, fulfill my own potential, whatever that looks like. And so actually, whilst I believe and I've went through great adversity and whatever, I've turned it around into a positive, and it's actually gave me more purpose than I could ever imagine. And my trajectory where I am now is so different to what I envisioned 9, 8, 10 years ago. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be here doing exactly what I need to do in order to help people who have felt the same as me. And, there's still remnants of the lone wolf in me. I still don't really socialize much. Don't really go out. Don't give friends much time. And that's just because I'm just an introvert. I just like my own company. I like thinking about complex and convoluted ideas that I can't articulate to the world because they just don't understand. I can't begin to explain what goes on in my mind in a way that's going to allow someone to understand me the way they want to. And especially, people don't know my backstory and my mental health background, and so they're never actually going to understand why I'm the way I am. People are just like, why are you so serious? Why are you this, why are you that? Instead of actually saying, why? And why are you like this? And so one of the things that I did during that time is I looked into psychology so much that I even enrolled myself in cognitive analytical therapy. So CAT therapy is when you relate why you are the way you are and link it back to childhood trauma and what you experienced as a child. So I enrolled in that for a little bit, and that's when I met a great woman, a great therapist who actually diagnosed me with OCD. And to what extent that diagnosis is true or not, I don't know. But I definitely know there's an element of something in there because I constantly seek perfectionism in whatever I do. I want to be the best at everything I do. I want to dominate every single field that I'm in, and that's why I work so much. That's why I do what I do. In actuality, though, when you look at what I do for a living, it's all to impact other people and to help other people, and so that dominance is not necessarily a bad thing. But at what point am I going to work myself to the brim so much so that it's going to start affecting my mental health and I get burnout again? I don't know. I think I'm invincible. I think I can keep doing what I'm doing because I have done for the last 2 years and there's not been any consequences. But yeah, we'll see.
I was say, you're still young though, aren't you? And in the time that you're going to be working, 2 years is nothing, is it? When you think about it, you're still at the beginning of your journey.
Exactly, Ed.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
I don't even know where to go with that. That's a lot to take in, Yeah. For someone that you see is really outgoing, confident, intelligent, caring, loving, and for you to come up with all that, you good? Seriously, you're alright after?
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so with the gym and all that, because obviously we dove deep into why you got there, but with the gym and the fitness part of it, what did that actually do to your head inside that made you the way that you were? Because I know that you said it gave you something to focus on and all that, but if you could try and put into words for people, because that's a big thing, and it's more than, gym gives you dopamine and it releases the endorphins and you make you feel good and you'll wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. Yeah. But yours is a lot more.
Yeah, as I referenced before, it gave me purpose when I wake up in the morning. Yeah. I know I needed to eat to fuel my body with carbs, protein, fats, stable blood sugar levels, all that kind of stuff. And then when I actually got to the gym, I needed to feel validated. I needed to feel validated. So I look around and think, no one's working as hard as I am.
Yeah.
I'm not getting outworked. Something I still do to today, but for different reasons, because I don't want.
You still need to drive though.
And you still need to drive.
Yeah, you can't just walk in and just work out because you're going to work out. You need to go in there and you need to have a goal. You need to be able to focus.
Yeah, facts. And I suppose one of the reasons why is because I was very, very skinny. So I always wanted to be bigger.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be bigger, and I was always intimidated by people bigger than me, which is the majority of people. I was stick thin. Pardon me, I'm pretty sure I was like, when I started off, I was like 72.5
kg.
Yeah, and I got up to, well, at my height, that's really thin. And I got up to 104. That's taking it to the other extreme though.
Yeah.
And so it gave me the purpose to get up every single morning and have something to look forward to. I was not looking forward to anything else. I wasn't looking forward to going into school once every 2 weeks or once every week and focusing on my A levels to get myself into university, because the prospects of going to university was so low that I couldn't envision myself going.
Yeah.
So I needed something else. I needed another outlet. I needed that validation. I need people to tell me to come up and I look good. You know, it took me a couple of years to get there. I didn't start off muscly with good foundations or whatever, but eventually I got there. And when I did get there, it transcended into wanting to be the best in the room. You want to be the best in the room. Which is good for no one, because you realise, okay, what insecurities are you masking? What insecurities are you hiding? And I think COVID actually really helped me in that regard. I was taking it too far before that. Gym between the ages of 17, 18 to 21, I was taking it too far. Too far. You know, funnily enough, I actually got picked up to be a fitness model and sponsored by a couple of organisations as an ambassador and all that kind of stuff. And that was great. That was great until it wasn't, because when you realise that, you know, being a fitness model or being, you know, sponsored by brands, you're comparing yourself to everyone else, to other people on that team as well, who were on steroids, and I was natural. So then, in actuality, whereas gym actually gave me a purpose, it did so until it didn't, in the sense that I actually started comparing myself to everyone else. Not people who didn't go to the gym, but people who did go to the gym. And so it actually probably caused more mental health issues than saved. I don't know. I'd have to weigh it up and properly think about it, but that's an epidemic in itself, steroids and comparing yourself to other people. It's an epidemic in itself. But I'd say for the initial period, it helped me and gave me some clarity and some structure about something to work towards, given that university wasn't an option, for sure.
Do you reckon the gym environment and all that have helped you? Because obviously at the minute, you're in training station, but that's like a family gym. And do you reckon the environment has helped you out a lot?
I'd say no. So I spoke about before about my childhood and being like an outcast and being someone who didn't really fit in. I'm still like that. Yeah. Still like that. And I remember my mum and like family friends and family would always say to me, you know what, like when you get into the next year, like that's when you're going to start meeting your tribe, your people, getting on with people. That time never came. Year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, university, that meeting my people who understood me or people who I got on with never came. And so being in the gym was merely for social aspects. It's merely to show my face to people. And I remember a couple of my close friends now, Tom included, he used to be like, oh, when you come in the gym, you just put your headphones on, you get on with the workout, and then you come and say goodbye at the end, but you wouldn't stand around and talk. And I'd be like, yeah, because that's just not what I do. I'm very, very focused. You remember me 2 years ago, like I was very focused in JD. You know, you just stand around and talk and whatnot, but I couldn't think of anything worse. I have nothing to say. I've got nothing to say. Like I'm there to put in the graft and work. And don't get me wrong, I was taking it seriously, and I will say goodbye to you at the end and talk to you and whatnot.
But after you're finished.
But after I'm finished.
Yeah, after the work is done. Because I always remember when you and Tom were working out, I came over and just started chatting. He was like, lad, do me a favour. In the nicest way. Fuck off, we've got work to do. In my head, I was walking away, it's like, have I done something wrong here? Like, why is he pissed at me? Yeah. Like, what have I done?
Yeah, and so I feel very misunderstood because of it. And because I am brutally honest and because I am to the point, and I'm very selfish with my time as well. Very selfish with my time. People commonly misunderstand me, which again has contributed towards a cascade of mental health issues in itself, because if I can't find my own people, if I feel misunderstood by everyone that I meet, it's like, at what point am I not going to want to be here? So I've been battling with that since as well. Not as much, but I often think to myself, wow, like, you know, people like me until they unlike me. Happens all the time. But I'm used to it now. And you know, when you embark on your own self-development journey so much so that you become comfortable with who you are, you become impervious to what people think.
Well, essentially, you're picking up your own tribe as you go.
Exactly.
That's all that is. You're just finding people that they're not going to be part of your life. Oh, I don't like you. Okay, chant. That's all it is. That's the mindset I like to have.
That's it. And it's not even that people don't like me, but people have stuff to say. try and navigate through life balancing both. So that's what I'm on a journey to do.
And stuff like that. Stuff like that. So we were talking about the gym, and obviously the effects and all that, and but the thing I wanted to touch up on after, due to that, and you're talking about the ages that you went from 17, 18 to 21, they're peak university times.
Yeah.
And one of the things you did want to talk about was like the alcohol, drugs, going out, it's meaningless and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But do you think that you missed out on them days? Because that's when it was great for anyone at that age. Because first time I went out, I just turned 18 at the 18th birthday party. Went straight to Black Rabbit. Best thing ever.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
But do you think that you missed out on anything like that at that time?
Do you know what? It's a sticky one because like, for 8 months of my life, I was notorious for being a party boy.
Yeah.
But I didn't start drinking or going out till I was 19, 20.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit when I was 21. So I had a year of it basically. So I can't be disingenuous and say that I didn't experience it or, like suck the light out of it. But I definitely think I should have engaged in a lot more extracurricular activities or going out or partying or socialising at those ages. I think I missed out definitely. And then COVID didn't really help. That was 2 years again. And those are the most formative years of my life. Those years where I have no responsibilities. I'm my neuroplasticity's forever so active, and I'm taking in all the information at once, and I'm being a sponge. And now I'm 25, I look back and think, fuck, like, could have probably done a little bit more of that. But then equally, I know that when I was 21, I fell into another friendship group, which I'm not proud of. And thankfully, COVID was an excuse to get out of it. So it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. And do I regret not socialising more? Not necessarily going out, but socialising to actually know me. So, but I didn't even know myself.
That's fair enough to say. Going out is just such a UK culture, and it's normal for everyone to go out. But a lot of people go, I didn't really go out as much when 18 or 19 or 20. I feel like I should have went out more. Or if someone was to go out now, it's this, it's that. But in your eyes, because we're on the same page about going out is meaningless. But to you, why is it meaningless though? Like, some people thrive off it, some people make a life off it.
You're right. I still know people who go out every weekend now, or any excuse for a bevy.
Yeah.
For me, I've never been a big drinker anyway. I've always had like one or two. And become extroverted, be able to mask enjoying living in the moment and dancing and whatever else. It's not really me by nature. I'm quite serious by nature. I just am. It's based on the culmination of it. And becoming inebriated and getting a hangover the next day. And when I look at like the neuropsychological effects of alcohol and the effects it has on your brain and cognitive function, your hippocampus and all that kind of stuff, I just realised it's not worth it. I don't want to drink because we lose brain cells.
Yeah.
But for me, in terms of like the aftermath and like even during as well, why am I being fake, acting like I enjoy listening to this loud music and dancing and then speaking to girls? Like, why am I? I felt like I needed the attention.
Yeah.
I have no qualms in admitting that. As I was a bit of an attention seeker back in the day, for sure. Still have been the last couple of years, but, since I turned 23, 24. Fun is preposterous. Why can't we go to Lake Districts, or why can't we go and climb mountains or all that kind of shit? And now I see myself lacking a friendship group because as a result. But I'm fine with that because I'm a lone wolf. Yeah. I'm absolutely fine with that.
Well, where you say like that you lack friendship though, I said this on the podcast before. I've talked to Derek about episodes ago that it's not lacking friendships, it's knowing who them friendships are and what they bring to the table kind of thing. So me, like, I've never looked to you in a million years to go out for a bevy.
Yeah.
But I'd look to you if you want to go and do something, like whether it's the gym, because like I know you and I associate you. I won't think Kobie straight away to go for food, but doesn't mean that you're not my friend.
I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
You said something to me before. Could get quite controversial and quite deep, but I think for me, I only view you as a friend if I can trust you. I can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
Barely anyone. I retract my statement. Like, who do I feel comfortable around to be myself and to entrust you with who I naturally am? Barely anyone. What I find is that a lot of our generation like to judge and assume rather than actually, again, ask why you are the way you are. You know, as I said, I work between 70 and 95 hours a week. Time is very limited, and so it's only spent on those who I think are deserving of it. Not in a I'm up here kind of way. It's just so like, who am I going to feel comfortable around? Who is actually friend, oh, do you want to come for a drink or do you want to go to eat? And that's all fine, that's them. For me, I'm thinking about my next business idea or how to make more money or how to create more change or other serious stuff that people don't want to think about. And so come to me and moan about their issues and stuff, and I will give them the time of day, I will. But I don't have those friends who moan to me about their issues and don't do anything about it. And that's where I think I really separate myself, because what I realise is that I'm a natural problem solver. But when I but I came a lot more successful. I came a lot more successful because I was distributing my time and attention to cost you the most amount of time, but what can generate the most impact and output. And so obviously, similarly, what costs you low time, but low impact, low output.
Yeah.
And how I operate on a daily basis. Amount of input and output. And so I list my jobs and my responsibilities in hierarchical form of what I need to do, and friends just isn't on that list. Friends isn't on that list unless they need something from me. And that's what I predominantly find, is that a friend will only hit me up when they need something from me. It's never like, hi Kobie, how are you?
Yeah.
Lad, I can't tell you the last time anyone ever did that for me.
Yeah.
And it relates back to when I was asking school, how are you? Are you okay? That's what I needed the whole entire time for the 5 years I was in SFX, but no one once actually asked me. And then when I was asked that question, did I break down and like, no, I'm not okay? None of my friends ask me, am I okay? Because they assume I am, because of what I do.
Okay. Do you think then that the way that you've become, because of your past, the man that you've made yourself, the person that you are today, say you're successful, because I know you won't take that.
Facts.
Just yet.
Facts.
Yeah. But the way that you've built yourself up to be the man that you are today, the output that you do, do you reckon people might not think that you've got time for them, so they don't come to you? Is a wall of your protection, but you keep that safe. You work on that all day, every day, all week, 95 hours a week. That now, like,
Probably.
yeah.
But that doesn't stop them from only...
Asking a quick question.
Yeah. It doesn't also prevent them from saying... that hope you're good is what society dictates that we should say. But in actuality, you don't give a fuck, otherwise you'd ask me. are you okay? And then you would engage in conversation afterwards. It's simple conversational etiquette. Something that I preach. Like, people who might be watching this now, they will cringe at what I say about conversational etiquette and, like, you know, waiting someone's turn and you know, approaching conversations the way that we want people to approach them. People cringe at the fact that I speak about it so much, but it's such a real thing. Is that ask me, am I okay? And then ask me for the favor.
Yeah. Are you okay? What you're up to? Like, it's such like a natural thing for us to text.
Yeah.
Like, from growing up, so I can understand.
Have I done small talk with you before?
Fuck no. I think that's probably why I've never asked you, are you okay? Because everything we've always spoke about is business. But not us personally. Like, about who we are.
Yeah, facts. And so, no, I barely have anyone ask me, are you okay? My mum's quite guilty of it as well, but on a safe say all of them. But in actuality, I don't know.
Because one thing I've loved from you is that when you give me back feedback, and I use this with my clients, is that not like they say they're sick or something, you always go, I'm sorry to hear you're sick.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's always really stood with me with you.
Yeah.
It's like, you've done nothing at all, but you're still apologising for me being sick.
Yeah. I haven't always been like that.
Yeah.
So again, conversational etiquette, I've had to acquire that as a way of mediation. If someone used to approach me with, I'm sick, I would probably say, I'd probably say to them what I said to you, you know, rated between the sickness between 1 and 10.
Yeah.
One to 6.
Go to the gym.
Go to the fucking gym. 7, borderline, you know, you choose. 8 or 10, don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
That's how I approach it, very objectively, very logically. Now I've acquired and taught myself to validate people's emotions first. You know, I'm sorry to hear that you're unwell. Is there anything else I can do for you? And as a professional, as a coach, I've got to be like that in order to generate clients. I genuinely do care. Obviously, I care about the transformation. I care about, you know, the position that they're at and the illness and stuff. But I never used to articulate myself in such a way. But now I'm getting there very slowly to be more empathetic and sympathetic. Have you come across?
Been able to do that, and it's went south with a client or with someone or whatever, and you miss it. Yeah, go on then in a bit. But if you look back at it now, I could have handled that so differently. I could have made a difference, different impact.
Easily, easily. And that's why I good thing about me is I know when to apologise.
Yeah.
I do know when to apologise. I know when I've taken things too far. I know when I've overstepped a boundary. And I know when to capitulate to an argument, to surrender myself. And it's definitely, with clients, it's so fall victim to my limbic system and react emotionally and irrationally. And as a result, I hurt someone or they are offended by something I've said and I apologise. But later on, they come back and say, majority of the time they come back.
Well, we do. And it doesn't matter when we take it on board, but we need to hear some things.
Yeah, so it definitely has backfired on me though.
Yeah.
100%.
But that's all learning curve though as well.
100%. Like when I went to the school and I started reciting pieces of legislation to them and how they violated it and how they could be deemed liable for negligence, they didn't take that well. They didn't take that well. Like, who are you to come in and start to do like this? And I'm like, bro, like, you don't even want to know who. Pushing past a certain limit is I show no mercy whatsoever. You've not seen that.
No.
A lot of people haven't seen that, but I show no mercy. My mum loves it because my mum knows I'll call anyone out for anything. And I will take it too far. I would take it too far purposely. I will appeal to the emotional heartstrings and I will get someone to react. That's something that I'm definitely working on. I don't mean it in a nasty way. But some people, let's take, for example, I know a alcohol addict.
Yeah.
And it took for me to deconstruct their alcoholism and tell them the ramifications and consequences of their alcoholism and the effect it could have on their friends and family. in actuality, like you get a lot of people validating their experiences and saying, oh, you know what, you're a functional alcoholic, like you can have 1 drink per day and stuff like that, whereas I'm like, nah, do you understand the consequences of what you're doing?
Yeah.
And I understand alcohol addiction. It's an illness. It's an illness relating to the nucleus accumbens in the brain and dopamine reward system. And I can talk about psychology all day, but I understand it, and it needs to be validated because it's a valid experience. It's an illness. But in actuality, sometimes they need to be told the truth, nothing but the truth, in order to understand the catastrophic consequences of what they are doing, not only to themselves.
So it's good that you've got that in your locker though, to be able to do that, because you do need to be able to sometimes push people up a wall, not physically, but push them mentally against the wall to the point where they can only come forward because you push them back that far. And you can go in on people and you know that you can push them that far. But some people do need that, especially if it's affecting life, kids, family.
I agree, but you'd be surprised if most people like that that don't want to hear it or say no, you shouldn't be like that. And so another reason why I find it very difficult navigating through life is because I'm told different things. I'm pulled into equally plausible directions about who to be and how to act. And the behaviours and articulations, well, that's just it.
You stopped talking at the wrong time there when I was having a drink.
I've seen that.
But it interests me though, like with schools, like when you go into them and all that, because I know that you pop into them and you're talking about the finances, don't you, and how to help them out.
Yeah.
How did they take that?
A lot of schools have failed. Sorry, a lot of students have failed by the schools.
Because is that where your financial literacy comes into? Is it in the school, or is that somewhere completely different?
SEN staff.
Yeah.
A lot of them are actually in agreement, but it's easy said than done because schools are actually poorer than we think.
Poor schools are poor.
Oh, well, you'd know, wouldn't you? So,
poor.
Yeah. When I was 12, again, I'm obsessed with numbers, obsessed with standard deviation, variance, all that kind of stuff that contributes towards the acceleration or deceleration of trades and stocks and all that kind of stuff. Obsessed with it. And teaching the people from my area how to utilize their money properly instead of, fall into societal normalities and financing German whips as a mechanism to feel validated. And that's something that I've definitely never fell into and never will. And so I'm really big on teaching people how to utilize their finances. And it's weird because some people are like, oh, people are going to do what they want to do with the money, like leave them alone. And I'm like, okay, but when And so I'm really big on teaching my students financial literacy. Not many people know that if you open a private pension up and whatever money you contribute towards, every single month subsequently. And when I'm 55, that would have compounded over time and I'd have a fair bit of money to go off. Whereas actuality, in reality and in theory, those people are like, nah, I don't want the pension. I don't want to pay the extra 25 quid a month or whatever it is, and I want that money now. In actuality, in the long run, that could have compounded over time and you could have been a lot better off in when time you're 55, 65, whatever the retirement age is then. And so I'm really big on helping people with their finances. I had a friend once who was asking me, I don't see like in like designer clothes or anything like that, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm a big saver. And they're like, yeah, but why aren't you spending money like that? You've got it like that. And I'm like, one, that's an assumption that I've got it like that. You don't know my other responsibilities outside of what I do. But two, like, you're actually projecting what you think onto me. like asking to lend money. And so, you know, it's not that I think I know everything or I'm great with finances, because I'm not a financial advisor by any means. But if I can help someone with a little nugget of wisdom.
Looking at you, thinking there, help me with my finances, lad. Might have to pick you up on that one. Through this, and I know you can talk all day long, but we 15 minutes, lad, and I know this isn't going to be the first time and last time that you're going to come on.
Probably not, lad.
But we touched up. Lads, I don't know where else to take it. That we may have missed out on today or whatever, but I don't want to say thank you for today. Really, I'm happy that you've also opened up as well so much. Like,
seeing this successful businessman, entrepreneur, whatever, and in actuality, like, my story leading up to here is why I'm the way I am, and I hope it diffuses a lot of the misconceptions about me as well. Is that people think I'm if someone doesn't need to be defined by their arbitrary position in life, and that ultimately if they want to get to a certain position, they can do it with a lot of time, effort, luck, perseverance and determination. So
with the against all odds as well, say for instance someone's watching this, whether it's a kid that's watching it and they feel like they might need help, or it's a parent watching it, feel like their child or someone they know, how would they be able to get in touch with you?
Easily Instagram. I'll give you my number or my email that you could put out, but there's a waiting list already.
Yeah,
I take numbers between 40 and 50 students at the end of this month to start, and there's a waiting list already. So
yeah, at least people might know where to go then.
Facts.
Well, not might know, they will know where to go.
The facts.
Yeah, but man, Derek, have you got any questions before we wrap up?
No.
No, not at all. Jay, I know you've only just turned up, but have you got anything you want to ask Kobie? Like, how'd you get shoulders that big?
Small right now, man. Small right now. Leave me alone.
But I really appreciate you coming on today.
Pleasure.
I fucking love this chat. I can't wait for this to go out.
Let's make it explode.
Yeah.
Boss.
Right, Derek, go ahead.